To be with you.
So what is your reaction to this news tonight, in which President Trump said he wouldn't call the FBI if he was approached by a foreign country with information he could use on his 2020 opponent? He might accept that information. He says FBI Director Chris Wray is wrong if he thinks the correct thing to do there would be to call the FBI.
Well, like many things with Donald Trump, at first you're shocked, and then, of course, you realize, yes, that's exactly him. There is no ethical standard. There is no bar below which he will not go. What I find so striking about this is he went to such trouble to deceive the country about that Trump Tower meeting. He dictated that false statement about adoptions to mislead people. So if this was so perfectly okay as he would have us believe, then why did he go to such trouble to deceive the country about that meeting? I think what the president is really saying is, yeah, I knew this was unethical and maybe illegal, and I would do it again. Plainly, I think we are going to have to spell it out crystal clear in the law that getting dirt from a foreign power is considered a prohibited foreign contribution to a campaign. We could call it the Donald Trump Act if we need any further clarity. But plainly, he hasn't learned the lesson. Rudy Giuliani is going off to Ukraine, or was going to go off to Ukraine, to see if they could drum up some more dirt on one of the president's opponents. Giuliani certainly, as the president's lawyer, hasn't learned a thing. Jared Kushner also wouldn't commit to notifying the FBI if he was contacted in this way. They plainly have learned nothing from these 2.5 years of our exploration of this and of all the public censure around this.
Do you think there's a possibility that the president is essentially, in doing this interview the way that he did tonight, is essentially inviting interference by other countries, that he's welcoming anything that other countries might want to dish up for him on any of his potential 2020 opponents? It seems sort of like a strange thing to ask, but we know from Mueller's report that after the president did solicit hacking assistance in his campaign in 2016 from the Russian government was in fact listening, and within 5 hours of him making that public proclamation, they did mount their first attempt on trying to access Hillary Clinton's private email server. Do you think the president could potentially be asking for what he wants here?
Well, I think without a question that's going to be the effect of this. Foreign nations, particularly our adversaries, watch every word said by the President of the United States, and they analyze it. What does this mean? If you take two things the president recently said, one in his conversation with Putin, where he said he still thinks this whole Russia intervention on our election was a hoax. And if you combine it today with him saying, I wouldn't necessarily call the FBI if the Russians offered me dirt again, you put two and two together and the Russians know as long as they intervene on Trump's behalf, he is too weak to ever call them out, and he may even be grateful for it. So, yes, I think it gives a green light to other nations to once again interfere in our election.
If the president's remarks tonight are to be taken literally and seriously, when he was confronted by George Stephanopoulos, who said the FBI director says that you should contact the FBI if a foreign government offers to intercede in an election or provide you something of value in an election, the president responded bluntly to that by saying the FBI director is wrong. In terms of the independence of the FBI, the independence of the Justice Department, the president's role as the head of the executive branch, is that potentially the president giving a directive to the FBI that something like that shouldn't be prosecuted?
Look, I have faith that Christopher Wray is a person of principle, and he is going to speak truth to power, as he did when he was asked that question before. I'm sure he knew that this was going to be anathema to the president's ears, but he is absolutely right. That should be reported to the FBI. So I have confidence that he will continue to run the FBI properly. But others may be influenced by Donald Trump, wearing them down, battering them down, urging them to do unethical things. It does take a toll, and I think you see in actions of the administration, unethical actions by others in the administration, that they're following the president's example. We saw in our own committee just last week, we did a hearing on the national security implications of climate change, and we found after the hearing that no written testimony was provided by one of the witnesses because the White House tried to censor the references to a tipping point and references to the cataclysm of climate change. So it does have an effect on those who are too weak to stand up to the president. I don't think Christopher Wray is one of them.
Congressman, I'm interested to hear you talk about FBI Director Chris Wray in that way, particularly because you suggested today that he and his agency may be about to receive a subpoena from you. If you can hold on for just one moment, I'd like to ask you about that on the other side of the break.
Sure.
House held its first open hearing on the Mueller investigation, specifically on its counterintelligence implications. Right after the hearing was concluded, the chairman of that committee spoke with reporters and basically threatened that what might happen next here is him giving a subpoena to the FBI to try to prize information out of the FBI about the counterintelligence findings of Mueller's investigation. That chairman telling reporters today, quote, "We are determined to get answers and we are running out of patience. If necessary, we will subpoena the director of the Bureau and require him to come in and provide those answers under oath." Joining us once again is Congressman Adam Schiff, that chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. Sir, thank you again for sticking with us. Why do you think it might be necessary to subpoena the FBI and the FBI director?
Because we can't get answers, and there's no reason why the FBI should be holding back. They're required by law under the National Security Act to keep us currently apprised of any significant intelligence or counterintelligence activity, and there are a few more significant counterintelligence investigations than the one that involved the president and people around him. When James Comey was fired, that counterintelligence investigation went into a black hole. Whether it was completely subsumed within the special counsel's work, there were separate agents who were embedded in his team that reported back to headquarters, but there were also other FBI agents working on it within the team. We don't have clarity, but at the end of the day, we need to know what happened to those investigations. Are any of them still ongoing? If some were concluded, what were the findings? And we have been searching for answers with the Bureau, and I don't know where the bottleneck is, but I am running out of patience, and if necessary, we will subpoena the director to come in and answer those questions under oath, because we need to find out if there are steps we need to take to protect the country from people who may have been compromised.
You had threatened a potential contempt citation against the Attorney General when you were trying to prize information from him, from the Justice Department broadly, that you were otherwise unable to get. You basically pulled back on that threat when the Attorney General, when the Justice Department did agree to start handing over some material. Is there overlap here between what you have been able to get from the Justice Department and what you're expressing frustration about right now in terms of what the FBI isn't giving you?
Well, I think there should be overlap, but these are not documents. This is not information that they have yet provided to us. And if necessary, we will take the same steps we were prepared to do with the Department of Justice officials with the FBI. I hope that won't be necessary. I think the director understands the requirements of the law. And if he's under some pressure that we can't see, that's not being disclosed to us, then they need to level with us and tell us what the circumstance is. But at the end of the day, we're going to get this information.
Congressman Adam Schiff of California, the chairman of the Intelligence Committee in the House. Sir, thank you very much for being with us. I know it's been a really busy day.
Thank you.